I never thought a simple text message could unravel my entire life. But there I was, sitting in the cockpit of a Boeing 737 at O'Hare, the familiar hum of pre-flight preparations surrounding me when my phone buzzed. The March morning was crisp, typical Chicago weather that couldn't decide between winter and spring. I glanced at my phone, expecting maybe a message from Sarah about dinner plans or a reminder about something I'd forgotten. FedEx. Signature required today. Package for Jonathan Blake at my home address. My name is Michael Harrison. I'm 46 years old, been flying for Delta for almost 2 decades, and I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. Married to Sarah for 18 years, 2 kids in college, nice house in the suburbs of Naperville. The American dream, right? Every morning I'd wake up in our king-sized bed, kiss my wife goodbye, and head to O'Hare for another day of safely ferrying hundreds of people across the country. It was routine, comfortable, predictable. I stared at that text message, my co-pilot, Dave Kowalski, running through the weather reports beside me. Dave was a good guy, 15 years younger than me, still excited about every flight. He reminded me of myself when I first got my wings. Looking at moderate turbulence over Iowa, but should smooth out by the time we hit Missouri, Dave was saying. But his voice faded into background noise. Jonathan Blake. The name meant nothing to me. I didn't know any Jonathan Blake. Never ordered anything that would require a signature. I pulled up the tracking information while Dave checked our fuel calculations, my fingers moving across my phone screen with the same precision I used for flight controls. My blood ran cold. Declared value, $3,200. Origin, Tourneau Watches, New York City. Scheduled delivery to my house in 2 hours. Everything all right, Mike? Dave asked, noticing my expression. He had that concerned look young pilots get when they think something might be wrong with the aircraft. Yeah, just home stuff, I muttered, my mind racing faster than our twin engines would soon be spinning. Sarah was supposed to be at her sister Julie's place in Milwaukee. Had been there since Monday morning, wasn't due back until Thursday evening. At least that's what she told me when she kissed me goodbye at 6 a.m. Monday, her overnight bag already in her car. Julie's having a rough time with the divorce, she'd said, standing in our kitchen in her yoga pants and Northwestern University sweatshirt. She needs her sister. Of course, I'd replied, pouring coffee into my travel mug. Give her my best. You're the best husband ever, she'd said, wrapping her arms around me from behind. I'll miss you. Now, sitting in that cockpit, those words echoed differently. I fired off a quick text to her. Hey, FedEx is coming to the house today. Are you home? The response came quickly, almost too quickly. At Julie's until Thursday, remember? Why? Package needs signature. I'll figure it out. Okay, love you. Tell Dave I said hi. Love you. The words sat heavy in my chest as I tried to focus on the pre-flight routine. We had a full flight to Atlanta, then I'd deadhead back on a red-eye Thursday morning. No way I could get home to deal with this mysterious package. Sarah says hi, I told Dave mechanically. She's great, Dave replied, flipping through his charts. Becca and I need to have you guys over for dinner when she gets back. Been meaning to do that for months. Yeah, sure, I said, but my mind was elsewhere. Jonathan Blake. Why was someone shipping a watch worth over $3,000 to my house for someone I didn't know? Tower, Delta 447 ready for pushback, Dave announced after we'd completed our checklist, and I forced myself to focus. 180 souls on board, depending on us to get them safely to Atlanta. My personal drama would have to wait, but even as we taxied toward runway 28R, that name kept echoing in my head. Jonathan Blake. Jonathan Blake. Who the hell was Jonathan Blake? During our climb to cruising altitude, weaving between cotton ball clouds, I had Dave take the controls. Just need to handle something, I explained, unbuckling my harness. No problem, I got her, Dave said, hands steady on the yoke. Take your time. Thank God for in-flight Wi-Fi. I pulled out my phone, the browser loading slowly as we climbed through 20,000 feet. LinkedIn. Jonathan Blake, Chicago. My hands were steady as I typed, years of handling turbulence serving me well. The search results loaded with agonizing slowness. There he was, investment banker, Goldman Sachs, divorced last year, lived in a Gold Coast high-rise downtown. The kind of address that screamed money and success. I stared at his profile photo. Handsome guy, early 40s, that Wall Street look about him. Perfect teeth, perfect hair, perfect everything. The kind of man who probably had his shirts custom made and never flew commercial. Why the hell was he having expensive watches delivered to my suburban home? Mike, you good? Dave asked as we leveled off at 35,000 feet. You look like you've seen a ghost. Yeah, just investigating something weird with a delivery at home. Want to talk about it? I considered it. Dave was a good kid, but this was too raw, too uncertain. Nah, probably just a mix-up. You know how online orders get screwed up? But I knew this wasn't a simple mix-up. My gut, the same instinct that had saved me from bad weather and mechanical issues countless times, was screaming that something was very wrong. My next stop was Facebook. I rarely used it, but Sarah was on there constantly. Book club posts, neighborhood gossip, pictures from her various girls' trips. Her profile picture was us at Emma's high school graduation last year, both of us beaming with pride. I looked happy in that photo. Unaware. I pulled up her friends list, scrolling through hundreds of names. No Jonathan Blake. But then I checked her book club page. Naperville Ladies Literary Society. A name that always made me smile. They read maybe one book for every 3 bottles of wine they consumed. There he was, in a group photo from some wine tasting event 3 months ago. The caption mentioned their special guest, investment advisor Jonathan Blake, who gave us wonderful tips on retirement planning. Investment advisor. At a suburban book club. I enlarged the photo, my finger pinching the screen. Sarah was standing next to him, laughing at something. Her hand was on his arm. It was a casual touch, the kind you might give a friend, but something about it made my stomach turn. Maybe it was the way she was looking at him, or the way he was leaning into her space. My stomach churned, and it wasn't from the altitude. I scrolled through more posts, my investigation becoming an obsession. Jonathan had commented on several. Great insights at book club last night, Sarah, posted 2 months ago. Thanks for the restaurant recommendation, from 6 weeks back. Your analysis of the protagonist was spot on from last month. Each comment had replies from Sarah. Friendly at first, but increasingly familiar. Inside jokes. References to conversations I knew nothing about. You would say that, Jonathan. Only if you promise to bring that wine again. Next time I pick the restaurant. Next time. How many times had there been? I needed help. Scrolling through my contacts, I found Jim Patterson. Retired Chicago cop, lived 2 houses down. Good guy. We'd shared many beers over our connecting backyard fences, talking about everything from the Bears prospects to our kids' college choices. His divorce 5 years ago had been brutal, but he'd come through it stronger. Jim, it's Mike Harrison. I need a favor. Sure, Mike. What's up? His voice was alert, despite it being mid-morning on a Tuesday. Retirement hadn't dulled his cop instincts. I'm flying. Won't be home until Thursday. FedEx is delivering a package today that needs a signature. It's complicated. Can you sign for it? There was a pause. Jim had been a cop for 30 years, 20 of those as a detective. He could read between lines better than anyone I knew. Complicated how? Package is addressed to someone named Jonathan Blake. I don't know any Jonathan Blake. It's from a luxury watch store in New York. Another pause. I could practically hear him processing. Value? 3,200 declared. Jesus, Sarah home? She's at her sister's in Milwaukee, supposedly. That word hung between us like a body between crime scene tape. Supposedly. I'll handle it, Mike. Document everything? If you could. And Jim? Maybe point your security camera toward my front door if possible. Already on it, brother. I've got a new system. 4K resolution. Catches everything. Safe flight. Thanks, Jim. I owe you big time. That's what neighbors are for. Hey, Mike, whatever this is, keep your head clear up there. Those passengers need you focused. He was right. I owed it to my passengers and crew to be professional. I tucked my phone away and returned to my duties, but my mind kept drifting. 18 years of marriage. 2 kids. A house with a mortgage that would be paid off in 5 years. Season tickets to the Cubs. Plans to retire early and travel the world together. When had it all gone wrong? I spent the rest of the flight to Atlanta in a fog, mechanically going through the motions, making announcements, monitoring instruments. Ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck, this is Captain Harrison. We're cruising at 35,000 feet, smooth air ahead. We should have you on the ground in Atlanta right on schedule. My voice sounded normal, professional. But inside, I was fragmenting like a plane hitting wind shear. The layover in Atlanta dragged like a flight delay in bad weather. I found a quiet corner in the crew lounge, away from the usual crowd of pilots and flight attendants swapping stories. The coffee was terrible, but I needed something to do with my hands while I went deeper into the rabbit hole. Sarah's credit card statements were accessible through our joint account. I'd never had reason to check them before. We trusted each other, or at least, I'd trusted her. I scrolled through recent charges, my heart sinking with each swipe. Restaurants I didn't recognize. The Gauge, RPM Italian, Gibson's, all downtown, all expensive. Boutique shops during times she was supposedly at work. A charge at the Peninsula Hotel from 2 months ago, $97. Not enough for a room, but plenty for a long lunch and drinks. The date matched a day she'd said she was staying late for parent-teacher conferences. My phone buzzed. Jim. Package delivered at 1:47 p.m. I signed for it, told the driver I was accepting for a neighbor, got everything on camera. Driver confirmed it was for Jonathan Blake. Big box from Tourneau. It's in my garage whenever you want it. Thanks, Jim. I owe you. Mike, there's more. After the delivery, I kept the camera running. Just had a feeling. Sarah's car pulled into your driveway about an hour ago. The words hit me like clear air turbulence. My coffee cup shook in my hand. She's supposed to be in Milwaukee. I know. Want me to do anything? Just keep recording if you can. I'll handle it when I get home. Roger that. Mike? I'm sorry, brother. Yeah, me too. I sat there in that crew lounge, surrounded by the buzz of aviation life, feeling like my personal aircraft had just lost both engines. Mayday, 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 marriage going down. The red-eye flight back to Chicago Thursday morning was the longest of my career. I'd flown through storms, dealt with medical emergencies, had engines fail. Once, I'd even had a bird strike that took out half my windscreen. but nothing compared to the dread building in my chest as we descended toward O'Hare. Dave was dead heading back with me, sitting in first class while I occupied the jump seat in the cockpit. The crew was chatty, discussing their plans for their days off. I contributed just enough to seem normal, but my mind was already home, already confronting the truth I didn't want to face. "You okay, Mike?" the captain asked as we began our descent. "You seem quiet." "Just tired," I lied. "Been a long trip." "Tell me about it. Can't wait to get home to the wife." I nodded, not trusting my voice. Home to the wife. What would I be going home to? I drove home on autopilot, the familiar route from O'Hare feeling foreign somehow. The morning traffic was heavy, typical Thursday rush hour, but I barely noticed. Every mile brought me closer to a confrontation I wasn't ready for, but couldn't avoid. Sarah's car wasn't in the driveway. Of course not. She was still maintaining her lie, probably back in Milwaukee by now to establish her alibi. The house looked the same as when I'd left Monday morning. Same basketball hoop where David had spent countless hours practicing. Same garden where Sarah grew her tomatoes every summer. Same front door we'd carried our kids through as babies. But it wasn't the same. It was a crime scene now, contaminated by betrayal. Jim was waiting for me, coffee in hand. He looked tired, like he'd been up all night thinking about what he'd witnessed. "You look like hell, Mike." "Feel worse. You have the package?" He led me to his garage, past his restored '67 Mustang that was his pride and joy. On his workbench sat a large Tourneau box, looking innocent and explosive at the same time. The weight of it was substantial when he handed it to me. Real luxury, real money, real betrayal. "I've got something else," Jim said quietly, pulling up footage on his tablet. Yesterday, while Sarah was supposedly in Milwaukee, I watched my wife's car pull into our driveway at 10:47 a.m. Wednesday. The timestamp was clear, indisputable. She got out, looked around nervously, then went inside. She was wearing jeans and a blouse I'd bought her for Christmas. Her hair was done, makeup perfect. Not the casual look of someone visiting their grieving sister. 20 minutes later, a black BMW pulled up. Jonathan Blake stepped out, checking his phone, smoothing his hair. He was wearing a suit that probably cost more than I made in a month. My wife opened the door before he could knock. She was smiling, the kind of smile I hadn't seen directed at me in. How long? Months? Years? They embraced in my doorway. The kiss that followed wasn't a friendly book club greeting. It was hungry, passionate, the kind of kiss we used to share when the kids were asleep and the world was ours. They were inside for about 3 hours, Jim said gently, his hand on my shoulder. He left at 2 p.m. She left 30 minutes later. I'm sorry, Mike, I debated whether to show you, but you deserve to know. 3 hours. In my house. In my bed, probably. While I was flying strangers safely across the country, my wife was... I couldn't finish the thought. The math was easy and devastating. She'd driven 90 minutes from Milwaukee, spent 3 hours with him, then 90 minutes back. A 6-hour round trip for a 3-hour tryst. That was dedication. That was planning. That was choice, not impulse. Thanks, Jim, for everything. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I need to think. Process this. If you need anything, a place to stay, someone to talk to, someone to help you bury a body, you know where I am? Despite everything, I almost smiled. I'll keep that in mind. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table with the package. The same table where we'd helped Emma and David with homework, where we'd celebrated birthdays and anniversaries, where Sarah and I had planned our future over countless cups of coffee. Part of me wanted to throw the box in the trash, pretend I'd never seen it. But I needed to know. I needed to see what was worth destroying 18 years of marriage. I carefully opened the box, documenting everything with my phone. Each layer of packaging was like peeling back the layers of my marriage, revealing something darker underneath. Inside was a Rolex Submariner date, classic blackface, steel case. The weight of it in my hand was substantial. Beautiful watch. The kind of watch that said you'd made it, that you were someone important. Retail value around $12,000, but it was the engraving on the back that twisted the knife. JB, forever yours. Forever. I laughed, but it came out bitter, hollow. 18 years of marriage, 2 kids, a lifetime of memories, and she was promising forever to someone else. When had our forever ended? When had she decided that our vows were just words? The receipt showed a cash payment. Smart. No credit card trail. But not smart enough to avoid using my address. Why my address? Convenience. Or was there something thrilling about having her lover's gift delivered to her husband's home? The warranty card was blank, waiting to be filled out by the recipient, waiting for Jonathan Blake to claim his prize. I photographed everything: the box, the watch, the receipt, the engraving. Evidence. Jim had taught me that word meant something specific. Not suspicion, not emotion, but proof. Undeniable, documented proof. I called the only divorce attorney I knew. Patricia Chen had handled Jim's divorce 5 years ago. She'd been thorough, professional, and had protected Jim's assets when his ex tried to claim his pension. Law offices of Chen and Associates, a pleasant voice answered. I need to speak with Patricia Chen. Tell her Michael Harrison is calling. Jim Patterson referred me. One moment, Mr. Harrison. The hold music was ironically, I will always love you. I wondered if that was intentional, a cruel joke for people calling about the end of love. Michael, what can I do for you? Patricia's voice was warm but professional. I need to see you. Today, if possible. I have evidence. Evidence of what? My wife is having an affair. I have proof. And she just facilitated her affair partner receiving a $12,000 watch at my home. There was a pause. I could hear her typing. I can see you at 3 p.m. Bring everything. Photos, documents, financial records, anything you think might be relevant. I'll be there. Michael, I'm sorry you're going through this. But if you have what you say you have, we'll protect you. That's my job. The hours until the appointment crawled by. I walked through my house like a detective at a crime scene. Were those new sheets on our bed? Was that cologne I smelled on the pillows? Or was my mind playing tricks? The bathroom trash had been emptied, the surfaces cleaned. She'd been thorough in her cleanup, but not thorough enough. In our home office, I gathered financial documents. Tax returns, bank statements, investment accounts. The picture they painted was of a comfortable middle-class life. Nothing extravagant, but solid, secure, built on 18 years of working together, saving together, planning together. Or so I'd thought. Patricia's office was in a gleaming tower in Naperville, all glass and steel and modern efficiency, the kind of place where dreams went to die and new lives began. The receptionist offered me coffee or water. I declined. My stomach couldn't handle anything. Patricia Chen was younger than I'd expected, maybe early 40s, with kind eyes that had seen too much pain. Her office was sterile, professional, diplomas on the wall, pictures of her family on the desk, but turned away from clients. Smart. Don't remind people ending their marriages of what happiness looks like. Michael, please sit. Jim spoke highly of you when I called to confirm the referral, said you're one of the good ones. I thought I was in one of the good marriages too, I replied, sinking into the leather chair. Let's see what we're dealing with. I spread out my evidence on her conference table like a pilot laying out flight charts. The photos, the delivery documentation, Jim's security footage on my tablet. She reviewed everything methodically, taking notes in precise handwriting. Occasionally, she'd ask a clarifying question, but mostly she just absorbed the information. This is remarkably well documented, she said finally. Jim trained you well. The watch being delivered to your home is particularly interesting. Did you sign for it? My neighbor did on my behalf. Perfect. It was delivered to your address, accepted by your agent. Legally, it's your property now. But it's not mine. It's his. Patricia smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the smile of a predator who just spotted prey. No, it's yours. He abandoned it by having it sent to your address. If he wants to claim it, he'd have to admit to the affair, explain why he was using your home for deliveries. He'd have to document his relationship with your wife. He won't. What about Sarah facilitating this? That's where it gets interesting. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, but dissipation of marital assets is still relevant. She used your home to enable a $12,000 purchase for her affair partner. That's financial misconduct. We can use this. She pulled out a legal pad, began sketching out options. Tell me about your finances. Joint accounts? Everything's joint. Checking, savings, credit cards. The house is in both names. My 401k is separate, but she's the beneficiary. We'll need to move fast to protect your assets. How long do you think the affair has been going on? I pulled out my phone, showed her the records I'd screenshot. Based on the phone records, at least 8 months, maybe longer. There are hundreds of texts to a 312 number that I verified as his. Calls during my flights. Credit card charges that don't match her stated whereabouts. Patricia studied the patterns, her expression growing darker. This is extensive. This isn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This is a full-blown relationship. The financial implications alone? Let me see those credit card statements again. We spent 3 hours building a strategy. I gave her access to everything. Phone records, credit card statements, bank accounts. The pattern, once you looked for it, was obvious. Lunches at expensive downtown restaurants, shopping sprees at Nordstrom and Saks, a weekend at a spa in Wisconsin that she told me was a work retreat. How much do you think she's spent on this affair? I asked. Patricia pulled out a calculator, her fingers flying over the keys. Based on what I'm seeing here, restaurants, hotels, shopping, trips, we're looking at roughly $50,000 over 8 months. That's dissipation of marital assets. That's your retirement being spent on her boyfriend. $50,000. The number hit me like a punch. We'd been saving for early retirement, planning to travel, see the world together. Every extra shift I'd picked up, every holiday I'd worked for overtime pay, she'd been spending on another man. I feel like an idiot, I said quietly. You're not an idiot. You trusted your wife. That's what you're supposed to do in a marriage. She betrayed that trust. That's on her, not you. What happens now? Now we protect you. First, we file for divorce. The evidence of adultery won't affect the grounds. Illinois is no fault, but it will impact the financial settlement. The dissipation claim is strong. She spent marital assets on her affair. We can demand reimbursement. And the watch? Keep it. It's yours legally. If they want to fight for it, let them. I'd love to depose Mr. Blake about why he was having expensive jewelry delivered to your home. On the drive home, I called my bank. The conversation was surreal. I need to separate my accounts from my wife's, I told the banker. I understand, Mr. Harrison. Are you on the account together? Yes, but I'm filing for divorce. My attorney said I can legally protect my portion of the assets. Of course, we see the situation unfortunately often. I can help you set up an individual account and transfer your portion of the joint funds. Your portion? Half of everything. Half of 18 years. I also canceled joint credit cards, changed beneficiaries on my life insurance, removed Sarah's access to my 401k. Each action felt like cutting a thread that had bound us together. By the time I got home, I'd financially separated our lives as much as legally possible. That evening, Sarah returned from her trip to Milwaukee. I heard her car in the driveway at 6:47 p.m. My heart pounded, but my hands were steady. I'd faced engine failures, severe turbulence, medical emergencies at 30,000 feet. I could face this. Hey, she called out, dropping her overnight bag by the door. Traffic was awful. Some accident on 94. Took forever. Her voice was bright, cheerful. The voice of someone without a care in the world. She came into the kitchen where I was sitting, kissed my cheek. I fought the urge to recoil. Her lips had been on another man yesterday. In my house, in my bed. How was your flight? She asked, opening the refrigerator, pulling out a bottle of wine. The good stuff, I noticed. The kind we saved for special occasions. Fine, I replied, voice level. How was Julie? Oh, you know Julie. Dramatic as always. The divorce is hitting her hard. That ex of hers is being a real pain about the house. She poured herself a generous glass. Didn't offer me any. When had she stopped offering? But I think I helped. Sometimes you just need your sister, you know. I'm sure she appreciated it, I said, watching her lie with such ease. Must have been tough, being there for 3 straight days. Exhausting, she agreed, taking a long sip of wine. But that's what family does. We show up. Show up. Like she'd shown up for Jonathan Blake yesterday. Anything interesting happen while I was gone? She asked, starting to prepare dinner. Acting like this was any other Thursday night. I wanted to laugh at the audacity. Did she think I was stupid? Or had she gotten so comfortable in her deception that she couldn't imagine being caught? Got a package, I said casually. Oh, what did you order? She was chopping vegetables, her back to me. I watched her shoulders for any sign of tension. I didn't. It was for someone named Jonathan Blake. The knife paused for just a moment. Her shoulders tightened imperceptibly. If I hadn't been watching for it, I would have missed it. Jonathan Blake? That's weird. Must be a mistake. Her voice was still light, but there was something underneath. Fear? Concern? That's what I thought. So I opened it. She turned then, trying to read my face. I kept my expression neutral, the same face I used when dealing with difficult passengers or challenging situations in the air. Calm, professional, giving nothing away. What was it? I walked to the counter, picked up the Tourneau box, and set it down between us. The sound it made on the granite countertop was final, decisive. A Rolex, $12,000, engraved JB, forever yours. The color drained from her face like fuel from a compromised tank. She gripped the counter, the knife still in her hand. For a moment, I wondered if she'd use it. But then she set it down carefully, deliberately. Michael, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why your investment advisor from book club is having watches delivered to our home? Can you explain why you were here yesterday when you were supposed to be in Milwaukee? Can you explain the 3 hours he spent in our house? Her mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. How did you? Does it matter? Jim has security cameras. I have phone records, credit card statements. 8 months, Sarah. 8 months of lies. She started crying then. Not gentle tears, but ugly, body-shaking sobs. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You're having an affair. You've been having an affair for 8 months. You used our home, our bed. You spent our money, $50,000 of our money, on him. 50,000? That's ridiculous. I never... Restaurants, hotels, shopping trips, spa weekends. It's all documented. Every penny. She collapsed into a chair, still sobbing. Michael, please. We can work through this. Think about the kids. I am thinking about the kids. I'm thinking about the example we set. I'm thinking about teaching them that actions have consequences, that marriage means something, that promises matter. It was a mistake. Jonathan means nothing. Nothing? He means nothing? Then why does his $12,000 watch say, "Forever yours"? Why were you promising forever to nothing? The doorbell rang. Perfect timing. I'd arranged for the process server to arrive at 7 p.m. I wanted her served in our home, the home she'd defiled. Who's that? Sarah asked, wiping her eyes, mascara running down her cheeks. Your future. I opened the door. The process server was young, professional, looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Sarah Harrison? She stood in the doorway between the kitchen and foyer, swaying slightly. Yes? You're being served. He handed her the papers, had her sign the acknowledgement, and left quickly. He'd probably seen too many of these scenes. Sarah stood in our foyer, divorce papers in hand, tears streaming. The woman I'd married 18 years ago was gone, replaced by this stranger who could lie as easily as breathing. Michael, please. We can work through this. Couples counseling. I'll end it with Jonathan. I'll do anything. Anything? Will you give back the $50,000? Will you give back the 8 months of lies? Will you give back the trust? My phone rang. Unknown number. I knew who it would be. I answered on speaker. Hello? Mr. Harrison? This is Jonathan Blake. I believe you have something of mine. The audacity was breathtaking. Sarah's eyes widened in panic, shaking her head frantically, mouthing, No, no, no. Jonathan, I said pleasantly, I was wondering when you'd call. You mean the watch that was delivered to my home? The one with the touching engraving? That was a mistake. The address was wrong. I need it back. Then file a police report. Report it stolen. I'm sure they'd be very interested in why you're having expensive jewelry delivered to another man's house. Especially when that man's wife was conveniently home to facilitate the delivery. Silence. I could hear him breathing, calculating. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I understand you're sleeping with my wife. I understand you've been doing it for 8 months. I understand you used my home for your liaisons. And I understand that the watch stays with me. If you want to pursue it legally, I welcome the opportunity to discuss it in open court. I'm sure your employer would be fascinated by the details. Are you threatening me? Not at all. I'm simply stating facts. The watch was delivered to my home, accepted by my agent. It's legally mine. If you want to claim it, you'll need to explain your relationship with my wife, why you were using my address, and why you thought it was appropriate to conduct an affair with a married woman. Goldman Sachs has strict personal conduct policies, doesn't it? More silence. Then, this isn't over. Yes, Jonathan, it is. It's completely over. Don't contact me again. Don't contact my wife again. If you do, I'll file harassment charges and make sure your firm knows exactly what kind of man they employ. I hung up. Sarah was sobbing again, collapsed on the couch. You're ruining everything! No, Sarah, you ruined everything! I'm just cleaning up the mess. What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. You can stay in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you find somewhere else. Hotel, your sister's, Jonathan's place. I don't care. But you're not staying in this house. This is my house, too. Was your house. Or you lost that right when you brought another man into it. She tried different tactics over the next few hours. Anger, tears, seduction. She actually tried to seduce me, coming to the bedroom in lingerie I'd never seen before. Probably bought for him. Please, Michael, remember what we had? Remember how good it was? I remember everything. I remember our wedding day. I remember when the kids were born. I remember every anniversary, every Christmas, every moment I thought we were building something real. And now I remember that for the last 8 months, it's all been a lie. Not all of it! I love you! No, you don't get to say that. Love doesn't lie. Love doesn't cheat. Love doesn't spend $50,000 on another man while the husband works overtime to fund retirement. She left then, slamming the door. I heard her car start, tires squealing as she backed out. Running to him, probably. Let him deal with her tears. The next few days were a blur of legal meetings, document gathering, and awkward silences when she came to get her things. She stayed at a hotel, billing it to our credit card until I canceled it. Then she went to Julie's. Really went this time. Patricia was impressed with my documentation. You've made my job easy. He's panicking. His lawyer reached out. Goldman Sachs has gotten wind of this. Using a client's address for personal deliveries, even inadvertently, is a serious violation of their code of conduct. He claims it was a mistake. Of course he does, but he can't explain why your wife was home to receive it, or why she knew it was coming. His story falls apart under any scrutiny. What does he want? The watch, obviously. And for this to go away quietly, he's offered to reimburse you for it if you sign a non-disclosure agreement. No. That's what I told his lawyer. The watch is yours. If he wants to pursue it, we go to court. Discovery would be illuminating. The forensic accountant Patricia recommended was thorough. Too thorough. Every receipt told a story I didn't want to read. Jewelry purchases from Tiffany. A $3,000 necklace when she told me she was buying a gift for her mother. Weekend trips to Michigan that were really romantic getaways downtown. Cash withdrawals that coincided with his visits to our home. The total dissipation is actually closer to $55,000, the accountant reported. There are also some questionable transfers between accounts, moving money to make the spending less obvious. She was hiding it? Attempting to, but the paper trail is clear. This was systematic deception. Patricia nodded, adding to her notes. This strengthens our position significantly. She wasn't just having an affair. She was actively defrauding the marital estate to fund it. 2 weeks after discovery, Sarah's lawyer reached out. She wanted to negotiate. The evidence was overwhelming, the dissipation claim ironclad. She needed this to end quickly and quietly. Jonathan had disappeared from her life the moment his career was threatened. Forever had lasted exactly 17 days. We met in Patricia's conference room. Sarah looked smaller somehow, diminished. Her lawyer, an older man named Garrett who seemed exhausted by the whole thing, laid out their proposal. My client recognizes the strength of your evidence, he began, shuffling papers. She's willing to accept a 60-40 split of assets in Mr. Harrison's favor. She'll repay the dissipated funds over 5 years. Shared custody of... Oh, wait, the children are adults. No alimony sought. Patricia actually laughed. That's your opening? After documented adultery and 55,000 in dissipation? We're thinking more like 70, 30 immediate repayment of dissipated funds from her share of the assets, and Mrs. Harrison forfeits any claim to the house. The house? That's unreasonable. Is it? She turned it into a... Patricia paused, choosing her words carefully. Venue for her extramarital activities. My client can't live there comfortably anymore. She poisoned it. That's emotional manipulation, Garrett protested. That's fact. Would you want to sleep in a bed where your spouse had relations with another person? Would you want to eat at a table where they shared romantic dinners? The house is tainted. Mr. Harrison keeps it, or we go to trial. Back and forth they went. Sarah occasionally tried to catch my eye, but I focused on a point just past her shoulder. I thought about all the flights I'd taken, all the nights away from home, working to build our life while she was systematically destroying it. Michael, Sarah finally said, her voice small. Can we talk? Alone. Patricia looked at me. I shook my head. Anything you need to say can be said here, I told her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened. Jonathan was just, he made me feel young again. Desired. You were always gone, always flying somewhere. So you spent $55,000 of our money because I was working? You betrayed our marriage because I was earning the living that funded your affair? That's not what I meant. What did you mean, Sarah? Help me understand. When I was flying red-eyes to pay for Emma's college, you were in our bed with another man. When I was working holidays for overtime to fund our retirement, you were spending that money on romantic dinners. What exactly did you mean? She had no answer. How could she? Finally, after 4 hours of negotiation, we reached an agreement. 70-30 split in my favor. Sarah would repay the $55,000 from her portion of the assets immediately. I kept the house. No alimony. Clean break. What about the watch? Garrett asked, almost as an afterthought. The watch remains with my client, Patricia said firmly. It was delivered to his residence, accepted by his agent. It's legally his property. That watch is worth $12,000. Then Mr. Blake should have been more careful about where he had it delivered. Sarah finally spoke up, desperation in her voice. Michael, please. The watch means something to him. I looked at her then. Really looked at her. 18 years together, and I felt like I was seeing a stranger. The woman I'd married, who'd held my hand through my father's death, who'd cheered at every promotion, who'd promised to love me forever, she was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed. And our marriage meant something to me, I said quietly. The papers were signed. Handshakes were exchanged. And just like that, 18 years ended in a conference room that smelled like coffee and broken promises. I drove home alone, the watch still in my possession. That night, I placed it on the kitchen counter and stared at it. JB, forever yours. Such a small thing to destroy so much. Over the next few months, the divorce proceedings moved with grinding inevitability. The house felt different without her, but not empty. Cleaner somehow. Like I'd removed a toxin I hadn't known was there. I hired professional cleaners to deep clean everything, replaced the mattress and bedding, even repainted the bedroom. Exorcising ghosts. Jim checked on me regularly. How you holding up? Better than expected, I told him honestly. It's like, you know when you're flying and you hit unexpected turbulence? At first it's scary, but then you adjust your altitude, find smoother air. That's what this feels like. That's one hell of a metaphor, he laughed. But I get it. Sometimes the turbulence shows you were flying in the wrong direction anyway. I returned to work, threw myself into it. Bid for international routes. There's something healing about crossing oceans, seeing the sunrise from 40,000 feet over the Atlantic. The world looks different from that height. Problems seem smaller. Life seems bigger. One night in London, I met Linda. She was a flight attendant based there, working the same route. Smart, funny, with a British accent that made everything sound sophisticated. We grabbed dinner near Heathrow, talking about everything except my recent divorce. You seem sad, she observed over fish and chips. Recently divorced? I admitted. Still processing. Ah, the walking wounded. How long? 3 months since it was finalized. What happened, if you don't mind my asking? I gave her the short version. Affair, discovery, divorce. Left out the watch, the money, the sordid details. She's a fool, Linda said simply. Trading a pilot for a banker? Clearly had her priorities wrong. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. We started spending more time together on layovers. Nothing romantic at first, just companionship. She made me remember who I was before the marriage, before the betrayal, made me laugh at stupid jokes, introduced me to proper English tea, debated whether American or British television was superior. The Office proves American TV is better, I argued one evening in a pub near Hyde Park. The Office was British first, she countered. You lot just stole it. Improved it, I corrected. Like we did with the language. She threw a chip at me. It felt good to be playful again. The kids were adults, but the divorce still hit them hard. Emma called from Northwestern one night crying. How could Mom do this? She sobbed over FaceTime. People make choices, I told her. Sometimes bad ones. What matters is how we respond to those choices. But you loved each other. I loved her. I thought she loved me. But love isn't just a feeling, Em. It's a choice you make every day, a commitment you honor even when it's hard. Your mom forgot that. You could have forgiven her. Maybe, but forgiveness doesn't mean accepting betrayal. It means moving forward without bitterness. I've forgiven your mother, Emma, but I couldn't stay married to someone who could lie to me so easily for so long. Do you hate her? No, I'm disappointed. I'm hurt, but I don't hate her. She's still your mother. She made terrible choices as a wife, but that doesn't erase 18 years of being your mom. David took a different approach. He was angry, refused to speak to Sarah for months. I had to talk him down during one of his breaks from University of Michigan. She destroyed our family, he raged, pacing my living room like a caged animal. No, son, she changed it. We're still a family, just a different shape now. How can you be so calm about it? Because being angry doesn't fix anything. It doesn't change what happened. It just poisons what comes next. She cheated on you. She stole from you. Yes, and she's facing the consequences. But carrying anger is like flying with unnecessary weight. It slows you down, burns extra fuel, makes the journey harder. I've chosen to dump that weight. Slowly, he began to understand. Both kids maintained relationships with their mother, though different than before. Holidays were split, celebrations separate. The family we'd been was gone, but something new was forming in its place. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I decided to sell the watch. Not for the money, but for the closure. I contacted an auction house that specialized in luxury timepieces. This is a beautiful piece. the evaluator said, examining it through a loop. The engraving is interesting. It has a story, I admitted. All the best watches do. Would you be willing to share it? Provenance adds value. So I told him. The affair, the delivery, the divorce. He listened with professional interest, taking notes. We could market this as the adultery watch, he suggested. Romantic scandal always attracts buyers. The story adds probably 20% to the value. Do it. The listing went viral. Adultery watch. Rolex Submariner with romantic engraving, delivered to wrong address, catalyst for divorce. Social media loved it. The story was picked up by local news, then national blogs. Everyone had an opinion about Sarah, Jonathan, and me. The watch sold for $15,000. The buyer was a divorce attorney from New York who collected pieces with stories. I donated every penny to a charity supporting children of divorce. It felt like turning poison into medicine. Jim told me Sarah had moved to a small apartment in Des Plaines. The house in Milwaukee she'd dreamed of was out of reach now. She'd had to take a second job at a department store to make the repayment schedule. Her book club had dissolved. Apparently, having an affair with the guest speaker was frowned upon. Jonathan Blake had vanished from her life the moment his career was threatened. His firm had gotten wind of the situation through the gossip network that connects all financial institutions. Using a client's address for personal matters, even inadvertently, raised red flags. He was encouraged to seek opportunities elsewhere. Last I heard, he was working at a small firm in New York for half his previous salary. Goldman Sachs doesn't give second chances. She got what she deserved, Jim said one evening over beers in my backyard. Did she? I asked. She lost her marriage, her home, her financial security, her reputation. That's a heavy price. She earned it. Maybe, but I take no joy in her suffering. The best revenge is living well, not watching others live poorly. Linda visited Chicago for the first time 8 months after my divorce. I showed her the city, introduced her to deep dish pizza, took her to a Cubs game. This is your life, she said, standing on the Navy Pier, looking out at Lake Michigan. It's lovely. It's different now, I admitted. But different isn't always bad. No, she agreed, taking my hand. Sometimes different is exactly what we need. We were taking it slow, both of us carrying baggage from previous relationships, but it felt honest. Real. No hidden phones, no mysterious charges, no lies. Just two people choosing each other, one day at a time. The kids met her over Christmas. Emma was protective, watching Linda for any sign of deception. David was distant at first, loyalty to his mother making him wary. But Linda won them over with patience and authenticity. She's nothing like Mom, Emma told me privately. Is that good or bad? Good. Mom performed happiness, like she was always playing a role. Linda just is. From the mouths of babes. Sarah had performed our marriage while living a different life. Linda simply lived, honestly and openly. A year after the divorce, I ran into Sarah at Whole Foods. She was in the cereal aisle comparing prices. The woman who used to buy organic everything without checking costs was now coupon shopping. Michael, she said, freezing with a box of granola in her hand. Sarah. We stood there awkwardly, two people who'd once shared everything, now strangers in a grocery store. You look good, she said finally. Thanks. You too. It was a lie. She looked tired, older. The stress of the last year showed in new lines around her eyes, a slump to her shoulders. I heard about the watch, the auction. Yeah. $15,000. You always did know how to make the best of a bad situation. I learned from the best. She flinched at that. I deserve that. You deserve whatever peace you can find, Sarah. I hope you find it. Do you mean that? I do. I don't wish you ill. I just wish you'd been honest. We could have ended things with dignity instead of disaster. Would you have given me a divorce if I'd asked? The question hung between us like fog over Lake Michigan. Would I have? If she'd come to me, said she was unhappy, wanted out, would I have fought for us or let her go? I don't know, I admitted. But at least we would have had the chance to try, or to end it honestly. Instead, you chose deception. That's what I can't forgive. Not the falling out of love, but the lying about it. I loved you, she said quietly. I want you to know that. I did love you. You loved me like you love a comfortable chair. Reliable, familiar, there when you needed it. But that's not the kind of love that sustains a marriage. And Jonathan, you loved him like a drug. Intense, consuming, destructive. That's not sustainable either. Then what is? The kind where you choose each other every day. Where you're honest even when it's hard. Where you build instead of destroy. Where you protect what you have instead of gambling it for a thrill. She nodded, tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Michael. For all of it. I know. Be well, Sarah. I left her there in the cereal aisle, comparing prices on granola, living the life she'd chosen. No mansion in Milwaukee, no investment banker boyfriend, no $55,000 of disposable income. Just a woman facing the consequences of her choices. That night, I called Linda in London. I ran into Sarah today, I told her. How was that? Sad, but clarifying, like seeing the alternate ending to a movie. The path not taken. Any regrets? No, just closure, I guess. The final flight log entry, mission complete. You and your flying metaphors, she laughed. But I understand. Sometimes you need to see the crash site to appreciate the successful landing. 2 years after the watch arrived at my door, I stood in my backyard with Linda, Jim, and his new girlfriend Dave and his wife, and a handful of other friends. We were celebrating my early retirement. Not the plan Sarah and I had made, but a new one. International consulting for airlines, based partly in Chicago, partly in London. A life of my own design. To new beginnings, Jim toasted, raising his beer. To honest endings, I countered. To wherever the wind takes us, Linda added, kissing my cheek. The watch was long gone, living on someone else's wrist now. But the lesson it taught remained. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. When the universe delivers truth to your doorstep, sign for it. Accept delivery, then use it to build a better life. Jonathan Blake thought he was sending a symbol of forever to my house. Instead, he sent me freedom. Sarah thought she was building a new life with stolen moments and borrowed money. Instead, she demolished everything we'd built together. And me? I thought I was living the American dream. Turns out I was sleepwalking through a nightmare I couldn't see. But sometimes it takes a delivery to the wrong address to show you you've been living at the wrong address all along. The sunrise looks different at 40,000 feet when you're flying towards something real instead of away from something false. Trust me. I see it every day now, and it's beautiful. The package that changed everything wasn't just a watch. It was a wake-up call delivered right on time. Signature required. And I'm grateful I was home to receive it.